Thank you, Senator Grassley. Ms. Bondi, if you're successful in your nomination, this Democrat would like to give you 3 words of advice. Answer Grassley's letters. You'll never hear the end of it if you don't. At issue, I believe, in this nomination hearing is not your competence nor your experience. At issue is your ability to say no. More than any other cabinet official, the Attorney General has to be prepared to put the Constitution first and even tell the President of the United States you're wrong. The political danger and personal costs of such a decision are well documented. You have only to ask former Attorney General Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr, whom Donald Trump sacked for lack of loyalty. And so I have 3 basic questions I'd like to ask you. Most Americans believe that central to the peaceful transition of power in a democracy is the acceptance of the results of an election. To my knowledge, Donald Trump has never acknowledged the legal results of the 2020 election. Are you prepared to say today under oath without reservation that Donald Trump lost the presidential contest to Joe Biden in 2020?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, the voice of reason in a sea of chaos. If you love freedom, believe in American strength, and know that peace only comes through power, you're in the right place. We are the Constitution Corner, where Americans' root guides its future. Today, we need to talk about a hearing that took place recently. Senator Dick Durbin grilling Attorney General nominee Ms. Bondi. And I have some thoughts. Buckle up, because if you're tired of the double standards, tired of the media spin, and tired of the way good patriots are treated in this country, you're going to want to hear this.
Ranking Member Durbin, President Biden is the President of the United States. He was duly sworn in, and he is the President of the United States. There was a peaceful transition of power. President Trump left office and was overwhelmingly elected in 2024.
Do you have any doubts that Joe Biden had the majority of votes, electoral votes, necessary to be elected president in 2020?
You know, Senator, all I can tell you as a prosecutor is from my firsthand experience. And I accept the results. I accept, of course, that Joe Biden is President of the United States. But what I can tell you is what I saw firsthand when I went to Pennsylvania as an advocate for the campaign. I was an advocate for the campaign, and I was on the ground in Pennsylvania, and I saw many things there. But do I accept the results? Of course I do. Do I agree with what happened? And I saw so much. You know, no one from either side of the aisle should want there to be any issues with election integrity in our country. We should all want our elections to be free and fair, and the rules and the laws to be followed.
I think that question deserved a yes or no, and I think the length of your answer is an indication that you weren't prepared to answer yes. Have you heard the recording of President Trump on January 2nd, 2021, when he urged the Secretary of State of Georgia to, quote, find 11,780 votes and declare him the winner of that state?
No, I've heard about it through clips, but no, Senator, I've not heard it.
What was your reaction to President Trump making that call?
I would have to listen to the tape, Senator.
Well, the quote that I give you is exact. He said to the Georgia Secretary of State, find 11,780 votes.
Do you have the entire context of that call? I feel like it was much longer than that and may have been taken out of context.
It was an hour long.
Right.
And you can certainly listen to it. I hope you will. Every American should. As a former prosecutor, are you not concerned that the President of the United States called a state election official and asked them to find enough votes to change the results of the election?
Senator, I have not listened to the hour-long conversation, but it's my understanding that is not what he asked him to do.
You need to listen to it. Let me ask a third question. Do you believe that the January 6 rioters who've been convicted of violent assaults on police officers should be pardoned?
Senator, if confirmed as Attorney General of the United States, the pardons, of course, fall under the President. But if asked to look at those cases, I will look at each case and advise on a case-by-case basis, just as I did my entire career as a prosecutor.
You also advise the president on pardons. That's part of your responsibility as Attorney General. And so I'm asking you, do you believe that those who've been convicted of the January 6th riot, violent assaults on our police officers, should be pardoned? That's a simple question.
So, Senator, I have not seen any of those files, of course. If confirmed and if asked to advise the president, I will look at each and every file. But let me be very clear in speaking to you. I condemn any violence on a law enforcement officer in this country.
Let me ask you about your work as a lobbyist for Ballard Partners. You did not list your current position as a partner at the lobbying firm, nor the work you've done for your Ballard Partner clients, such as lobbying for the country of Qatar for $115,000 a month, and for corporate giants Amazon and Uber when you're asked about conflicts of interest. Why do you believe your work as a lobbyist does not constitute potential conflicts of interest?
Well, Senator, first, that was the amount my firm received. I believe multiple people represented the country of Qatar within my firm. My role, and I am very proud of the work that I did, it was a short time and I wish it had been longer for Qatar, was anti-human trafficking efforts leading into the World Cup, which is something I'd like to talk about later too. I was registered as FARA along with many members of my firm. That was the sole portion of my representation for Qatar. Now, if there are any conflicts with anyone I represented in private practice, I would consult with the career ethics officials within the department and make the appropriate decision. I would also like to point out to you, I don't believe that I would be the first Attorney General who has represented and advocated for businesses in their past.
Of course not. The question is whether you will recuse yourself from any case involving your Ballard clients. One of those clients was the GEO Group, was it not?
GEO, yes.
A private prison company you lobbied for. It manages correctional institutions and detention facilities. The GEO Group has faced criticism for safety violations, inadequate health care, and poor management. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is GEO's largest source of revenue. Under the Trump administration, GEO stands to earn hundreds of millions of dollars by detaining immigrants if there is this mass deportation. Would you sense any conflict of interest if you're asked to judge the performance of this government contractor?
Senator, I will consult with the career ethics officials within the Department of Justice and make the appropriate decision.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, Durbin kicks it off with what he calls 3 words of advice. Answer Grassley's letters. Real cute, Senator. Real condescending. But we know what this is. This isn't about getting honest answers. This is about painting Ms. Bondi as some kind of Trump loyalist who can't be trusted. But let's make one thing clear. Being loyal to America and believing in election integrity is not a crime. It's a duty. It's what the left has forgotten. Now here comes the trap. Durbin wants a soundbite. He wants Bondi to say with zero nuance that Trump lost the 2020 election. She gives a professional legal answer. She says Biden is the president. She says there was a peaceful transition of power. She accepts the results. But that's not good enough for the radical left. No, they don't just want you to say Biden won. They want you to celebrate it. They want you to ignore the affidavits, the procedural questions, the late-night ballot dumps, the constitutional irregularities. They want you to forget it ever happened and repeat their lines like a robot. And when you give a nuanced, legal answer like a real prosecutor should they attack. Oh, her answer was too long, says Durbin. No, Senator, her answer was too honest for your taste. Let me remind you what this woman did. She went to Pennsylvania. She saw the chaos firsthand. And you want to dismiss her experience just because it doesn't fit your narrative? And then the Georgia call. Now, how many times are we going to rehash this? The media took one line, fined 11,780 votes, and acted like Trump was ordering a hit job on democracy. But guess what? It was a 1-hour call, a negotiation, a clarification, a discussion about irregularities. Trump didn't say steal votes, he said find the legal votes that were already there. If you've ever had to dig through bureaucratic red tape, you know exactly what he meant. But they take the quote out of context and throw it at Bondi like a weapon. She hasn't heard the whole call, and Durbin acts like that disqualifies her. Let me ask you this. How many Democrats have listened to that call in full? How many journalists? They sure love quoting it. Now here's where it gets even more telling. Durbin asks about January 6th. Let me say something clear. We on the right do not support violence. Period. We back the blue. We support law and order. And Bondi makes that clear. But instead of appreciating that, Durbin pushes her to say every single one of those people should never be pardoned. That's not justice. That's vengeance. The role of the Attorney General is to look at individual cases, not issue blanket condemnation because the left demands it. And here's the part where the hypocrisy really starts cooking. Durbin tries to smear Bondi for lobbying. Really, Senator? Half the swamp in D.C. is swimming in corporate money. How many of your friends worked for foreign governments, Big Pharma, and Silicon Valley? She worked to combat human trafficking before the World Cup. That's noble work. But Durbin tries to twist it into some shadowy scandal. Then he attacks her for lobbying for the GEO Group, a private prison contractor. Oh, now they care about prisons? Funny how that works. When it's Trump using ICE facilities, it's fascism. When Biden does it, silence. Let me tell you something, folks. If we ever want to restore justice in this country, real justice, we need officials who are willing to do the hard thing. That means standing up to political pressure. That means saying no to groupthink. And yes, sometimes that means standing by the Constitution even when it costs you personally. That's what Ms. Bondi showed in this hearing. Grace under pressure. Refusal to cave to cheap political theater. So here's my message to Pam Bondi: don't back down. America needs fighters, not bureaucrats. We need people who will uphold the rule of law, not the rule of CNN. The left will never be satisfied until every Trump supporter is silenced or in jail. Don't play their game. And to you watching, if you believe in the Constitution, in free speech, in equal justice under law, it's time to speak up. Share this video. Support candidates who tell the truth. And never let the radical left rewrite our history or shame us for loving this country. We are the Constitution Corner, where Americans' root guides its future. Until next time, stand strong, speak truth, and may God bless the United States of America.